Hey, Kelly.
Oh,
Hi, little thing. You're just
how are you?
this blonde little firecracker.
I love a blonde firecracker.
I love it. I'm so excited to be here. You're going to teach us today.
I hope so. Yeah.
You're going to teach us something we don't know today. So, Kelly, I actually never got to meet you. I feel like I know you because I see you on Instagram all the time where we all do our thing, right?
Yeah.
So we are recording. Okay, good. So the reason to these videos is every time somebody in our what we call the Team Gogo organization icons, I like to interview them just to kind of see how you got to where you at, and maybe there's something that you learned along the process that if you just open your mouth and release that information, right, then we could teach somebody else. So as much as I know about you, you came over with your own brokerage, correct?
Mm-hmm.
To EXP, you named Amy as your sponsor, which makes you a powerhouse girl, which I'm so proud of you ladies over there in Powerhouse. And then also that automatically makes your Team Gogo agent as well. We call the international family, but I never actually got to meet you. So this is like our way of like getting to one another, but also mostly just to share that knowledge that you have gained over time and maybe just help, you know, as Brent Gove says it, how does he say that saying is that, the rising tide rises all boats.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
100%.
100%.
Like if we can each just hold a hand, right, and bring them up with us, like where could we all be in the end of the year? So if you and me met in a bar, right, and I asked you, what do you do for a living? Who is Kelley Armstrong? What would you say? I'm not the boring elevator pitch, but like the fun.
Oh my gosh. And mine is so boring. You know what? I actually heard yours talking about making people homeless and all this thing. And I was like, she's genius. That girl's genius. Because I say, I'm a real estate broker. So I need to come up with something else. So thank you for calling me out on that one. I'm about to go work on it.
I was actually at Tony Robbins, right? And you writing, yes. You're like, who are you?
Yes.
I'm a realtor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. And so the guy said, so this guy that we were in a group with, he's like, okay, let me help you with it. Like, let's break this down. Like, what do you do? And I said, you know, well, I help people sell homes and buy homes, right? So he goes, oh, so you make them homeless. Genius. Yes, that's what I do. I make people homeless, right? But like,
so good.
Kind of have to like stop and think and like look at it from a different angle, something that's like eye-catching or ear-catching, right? So what do you do for a living? I make people homeless. What? They pay me for it, right? So yours is a little bit more boring. We're gonna work on it, right? We're gonna work on it. Exciting, but no, truly, like how long ago did you start real estate? First of all, where are you located?
Sure. So I'm in Billings, Montana. I think I'm just one of a few people that we have in Montana for Team Gogo. But I'm in Billings. We're on the eastern side of the state. We're the largest city in Billings. And I moved here in 2008 for college. My family is 3 hours west. Okay. In Montana, we do things in hours. I don't know how it is in Michigan, but that's how we do things. And
that because I come from a city in Europe, right? Yeah. And everything was like literally, as we like to say at home, like I can spit there.
Yes.
Right? It's really not far away. Like it's like right there, right? The first store is right there. Come down in the elevator, there's the store. Yes. I moved from that. So I moved from high rises, like living in a high rise in city, right? Sure. To Pinckney, Michigan. And here they also use something like, oh, it's not far. It's a half an hour drive. Half an hour
it's
drive.
Very different. It's so different.
I didn't even own a car in Romania. Half an hour drive is like I do it once every 3 months when I have to go and visit my grandma.
Yes.
That is far. In Romania, that's far, but I learned to understand and it's just a half an hour drive. Like that is close.
All day, every day.
My grocery store is half an hour away, right?
Yes, sometimes. So I moved here for college. I initially wanted to be a lawyer and I was offered a soccer scholarship in Billings. And so I got into college. I didn't hate my law classes because I don't think we necessarily need to hate anything, but I had to work 10 times harder at them than I did my marketing and business classes. And business was just way more fun. So I ended up graduating with a business degree, but I had found my prior brokerage the year before I graduated. And so in 2011, I started as an executive assistant for this couple who owned a boutique brokerage in Billings. And in 2013, I was licensed. In 2015, I was given the opportunity to buy in as a partner. Okay. So I got my broker's license and I bought into what is called T&E Realty. They're still operating. And we operated that brokerage together until 2021. when I moved my business over to EXP.
Why did you decide to come over to EXP?
So that is, and it's kind of the premise of what I wanted to talk about as well. I watched two people that I love dearly. They're still like my parents. We still get together on a regular basis, and they're amazing. They're incredible human beings. They've been in the business almost 30 years apiece. And so, I mean, there's a lot of real estate knowledge there. It also has been 30 years, and they're toying with the idea of retirement. So when we were running this business together, it was always kind of a game of tug of war, where I really wanted to grow and I wanted to implement these new things and add more technology. And they were just kind of like, not necessarily 1 foot in, 1 foot out, but they were getting burnt out. Yeah. And so I kind of saw this, like, as I dug a little bit further, I figured out they're scared to retire. And I made a decision to myself way before EXP. I made a decision for myself. I was like, I never want to be in that position. I don't want to be. And not that I think they did anything wrong. They're incredibly smart people. They have a bunch of rentals.
Places, right? Like,
yes.
It wasn't the best thing prior to EXP that someone could achieve or want to achieve is like a team or a brokerage. Ooh, yep. You build a team, right? And then you build the team and you're like, ooh, what if I have my own brokerage, right? But yep. We never really had that of like passive income of like in most brokerages, especially on those mom and pop shops, right? Their production keeps the lights on. They are not, yes. There's a reason why it's called broker.
Yes.
Because sometimes they are broker than the agents that work in the brokerage, right? So it's like, I remember my real estate coach, I was like 34 at the time, right? And she goes, what's your exit strategy? And I was like, in my height of my career, all the energy, I had all these goals. I'm going to double my business, right? And she goes, what's your exit strategy? And I'm like, first of all, I never even heard the terminology. I was like,
literally never heard it. It's not talked about.
So not only that, but English is my third language, right? So now there's a delay because now I'm translating in my mind and I'm looking for the files. Do I have any information on those two words, right? So I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, is she insane? Yeah. Like, I'm 34. Do I look like I'm ready to retire, or I even think about the idea to retire?
Yes.
But that in the same time stopped me in my track and made me realize, do I have a plan, or am I just planning on being on this wheel that I am definitely running but going nowhere?
I was 28, 29 at the time. So that's where it kind of got my brain.
You're about 6 years smarter than me.
No, I got in really young. That's where I was at. I got in really young. I was licensed when I was 22. I mean, somewhere in there. So yeah, no, I got in very young. Real estate's my only career. And that's actually something I'm really proud to say. But no, so they're incredibly smart. They had bought all these rentals. That was going to be their retirement, right? Well, they wanted to pay off those rentals. So it was, again, a game of tug of war where I'm so burnt out. I don't want to do any more transactions, but transaction is the only way that I'm going to be able to get out of this business. And so I kind of put myself in a tunnel, and I was like, how does that not happen to me?
Yeah.
Yeah. How do I not follow in their footsteps? And in that instance, but, so I dug into systems. How can I create more mental margin for myself where I'm not going to get to the point of burnt out? So that's where I really dug into my systems. And then May 2020, EXP rolls around, and it's like, oh wait, I can make my money back that I pay in for things that I'm already paying for. I was paying $225 a month for myself to have an individual SkySlope account, because that's something I wanted to implement in our business. And they just weren't on board.
I get that for the $85 a month. Plus I get KV Cord in that $85 a month. That's about $600 a month, right? Or how much they even charge, but a lot. Yeah.
So it aligned with a lot of the things that I was looking for in the future, because of what I had seen in front of me. So when I made the switch over to EXP, I had these systems where I was consistently growing my business by a pretty hefty percentage. I'm not going to say doubling, but it was up there. Every year it had grown. So I knew I had something there as far as how I run my business, how I track my business, and then running the numbers with iconing. It was going to be a little bit of a stretch. Like before I came to EXP, it was on my goal board to icon my first year, and I knew it was going to be a little bit of a stretch. So I'm like, okay, I need to double down on what actually works for me. And so that truly.
What were your common, like, how many transactions did you do the year before you came over to EXP?
I was doing consistently 20 probably 22 to 26, somewhere in there.
How many did it take you to Icon?
I think I did 27.
Okay, so it wasn't too bad. Like you weren't way off. Yeah, you were
Oh
like,
my gosh, no, I wasn't way off at all. But here's the thing. So when I made the move, when I decided to move to EXP, I was coming off a really good year. 2020 was a great year. I had hit some things that I hadn't hit before. I was excited about it as far as volume. And I decided that I wanted to double down because I wanted that Icon award. So I ended up hiring a team. And I hired an online business manager who's incredible. So all of us are I'm a big fan of hiring virtually. I think hiring virtually is like the greatest thing ever. So all of my team is virtual actually now, my support team. And but my online business manager was out of North Carolina. My brand manager, because I was coming up with a whole new brand, for myself. My brand manager was out of the UK. I had help with some graphic design. She was also out of the UK. My transaction coordinator lives in Washington at the time. She's now in Montana now, but she was living in Washington. And my now I didn't have her at this time, but my she started out as a marketing manager, but she's kind of like my internet wizard is what we call her. And she's out of Tennessee. So I created a list of things that I knew I wanted to do, but I wasn't good at, so a delegation list essentially. So creating a website, creating a back end, as far as like tracking everything. I was under the impression that I could create a system that not only lead generated for me, it also transaction coordinated for me, and it also did my post-transaction follow-up.
Mm-hmm. And did you invent it, or
$33,000 and 8 months later? No, we didn't. We begged it. We begged it.
I figured if you invented it, then sign me up.
No joke, right?
Yeah.
So it got me thinking that whole time, it got me thinking that we aren't using systems the way that they are meant to be used. And we need them to do those three things: lead generate, we need them to transaction coordinate, and we need them to handle our post-client follow-up. And that's going to be different for everyone. So not all systems are created equal for your type of business. Like you run a different business than I do. I run a different business than, Amy in Scottsdale. We just run different businesses. But that doesn't mean that there isn't a system that will fill that hole, right? So I dug into the systems that filled the holes that I had in my business. And
how did you even learn, I guess, about EXP? Like someone must have presented it to you or shed light on the idea that it even exists. Was it Amy, or did you find
I was actually referred to Amy by somebody like totally outside of the industry. So we were looking at social media stuff. I was in a course for social media, and I had reached out to the gal who was hosting it. And I said, hey, does this even work for realtors?
Yeah. Something
so embarrassing. Yeah. So embarrassing. And she was like, yeah, actually you should check out Amy Gregory. She's been doing this really well. And so I had initially followed her for social media stuff. And then we kind of got to talking, and I'm like, wait a minute. This is what I'm looking for.
You have
the answer.
Yes.
So it took, I got in contact with Amy in May, and I moved my business over in February of 2021. Just because we had to dissolve a partnership. That took time. And so she constantly following up. How's it going? I'm like, it's good. I promise we're getting there. But so I had 27 transactions to close, or to Icon. I didn't sell anything in January, February, because I was working with this team to build out this stuff, or these systems that I wanted. This stuff, that sounds terrible, but I was, to implement, right? Like I wanted to double down on what I knew worked, and I wanted to be able to really get laser focused on what that looked like. Well,
build it once and build it right. Even if I have to lose money in the first 2 months, I know I'm going to make it up because I'm going to have the systems that I need and the people in places.
Exactly.
So then, so May is when you started producing, or May is your activation date?
No. I was introduced to Amy in May of 2020.
May, got it.
Yep. And then I technically moved my business over in January.
Okay.
But my anniversary month is February.
Yeah.
So So I capped in May. So I started producing in March, technically.
That's amazing. So March to May, so March,
Mhm.
April, May, 2 months really.
Yep.
You said you're 2.7 million in production.
Yep.
So now from May to February being your anniversary date, you had this period of time to be at 100%. And
Yep.
if you can do 20 deals in that period, you would icon. When did you icon?
December. Well, I hit my last transaction in December, so I technically iconed in January.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah. You didn't even have, I mean, close to your anniversary date, right? But it didn't take you the full year because you were building businesses in the first place. So how excited were you when you got that email?
I was very excited. You know, I was actually with Jessica Lopez in a hotel room when I figured it out. We were at EXPCon.
I just interviewed Jessica just before you.
Yes. Oh, she's amazing. Oh my gosh, she is amazing. Oh, but we were rooming together for EXPCon, and I was just kind of, because she had just iconed, I think, in November, and then was going to be recognized in December or something along those lines. And so I just did the math on my own, and I was like, holy shit, like, oh my God, it's happening. My goal board is coming true. Like, it was all worth it, right? It was all worth it.
It's all worth it. So if you had to, if someone asked, okay, so what did really take you over to the icon? So what are those things? Do you have maybe a couple bullet points for us? Maybe some mindset or something that you definitely want to cover today to make sure that whoever is watching this, they can implement what, hi, honey, they can implement, would you close the door, babe? Thank you. They can implement what you learned and what you did, right, to take you to icon, so then they can get there faster, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I did when I was figuring out what holes I had in my business and where I wasn't following through with things, because we're not made to do all things, right? Willpower is a renewable source. It's just not, it's going to get depleted. So I created everything that I do as far as a buyer and seller process and what that looks like. So including my personal touches. So not just like your documents of what you need or your checklist, but like, okay, what calls do I make? What during the transaction? And then I also did it for prior. So like when a referral comes in, I'm 93% referral based. That's the majority of my business. So I give a lot of client love. I ask for a lot of referrals. Well, I'm hoping to get to like 98 this year. So that's the next goal. But because you always get a sign call, right? But I wrote down literally on a piece of paper everything that I do in a transaction, and then we implemented that into a project management software called Asana. So we use Asana for everything as far as tracking transactions in that and what we're doing. So like I said, I like a lot of personal touch. So those personal touches are checklist items. So like, hey, you get through
your necessarily the steps that you take, right? So is that your, I think you said you hired like an operations manager, or I don't know if I use the right word, or right status. Is that person's job then?
So Chelsea's no longer with me. We onboarded and we created all of these products, and now it is Rebecca, who is my marketing manager. So but I mean, I'm the one checking them off, right? Like, so I'm the one doing the task. I mean, really, because it's a personal touch. So, I mean, Rebecca's not going to write my notes for me. She's not going to make my calls for me. Like, that's how detailed we're getting. So we're getting like, okay, hey, you finished your inspection. Great. You're going to get a congratulations note. And you're going to say, hey, you know, like you made it through your inspection, onto appraisal. Great job. You're awesome. You know what I mean? That goes out.
And you mail that.
Yeah.
And so that means you're getting your client's current address at some point.
Oh, yes. So there's a whole process for that too.
My brain, I'm like systems. I'm like, okay, so if this does, what needs to happen in order for this step to happen? Oh, I need an address. How do you get the address, right? And then I like work myself back from there. So when and how do you get their address?
We have a buyer intake form or a seller intake form. So when they call, let's say, okay, you call me, you say, hey, Kelly, I want to buy a second home in Montana. And I say, great, let's, you know, I'm going to send you what?
I said Yellowstone.
Yes, yellow. I know. Oh my gosh, I was dying with Dwayne. He's like, we love Yellowstone. If I could coin how many buyers, especially that week, there must have been something going on with Yellowstone. How many buyers I had conversations with that week that were like,
everybody's like, I'm buying a ranch in Montana. I didn't even know there were cowboys in Montana. I'm like, what?
It's so good. Like,
to watch that show. Yeah, it was awesome.
Do you watch Yellowstone? I'm like, I really like Yellowstone. I'm like, cool. That's awesome.
Want me to watch Yellowstone? Because if you do, I do watch it. Yep. Yes, I do.
Yeah, tell me all
Because
about it.
I walk into clients' houses, right, and they have the wrong football team on the wall, and I'm like, I have to love that team now for 3 months. I have to love them for a commission.
Go sports. That's
right? Or presidents or, politics. I try to leave that out of the conversation with the client, right? I never know what.
No kidding.
Yeah.
No kidding.
So
no
you can
joke. But yeah.
When they call in, do you take every initial phone call?
You call in and we say, okay, great. We're going to set up a meeting with you. I like to meet face-to-face in the beginning or a Zoom, like we do a Zoom meeting. I'm going to send you a email with your, what's the best email address for you. I get their email and their phone number off of the phone after the phone call or during the phone call. And then they immediately go into our system and they get like, hey, we need a follow-up. So they get a templated email. It's the same for every client. And there's a buyer intake form or a seller intake form that's listed there. Actually, I think we have it labeled client intake form. It's the same. So it's the same form and that's there. I like to get personal information too, because again, I like a lot of personal touches. So we have their name, address, phone number, their current address, whether they're buying or selling. We have, if they have pets and what are their names, if they have kids, how old, their birthday and their favorite drink and treat of choice is what we know, and who referred them. Because that's
so we have that, we call it the favorites list. We don't do it right away. We do it after we kind of formed a little bit of a relationship with them, right? But we do kind of the same thing with the idea. At first, the reason the favorites list came about is because I took a peanut cake to someone who had allergies to peanuts. I was like, if I really would have known that ahead of time, right, I would have not tried to kill you.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So I was like, I really need to know this stuff, right? And then also get to know them, as you said, know their anniversary date, know their favorite band or their favorite coffee shop, or do they like coffee, or what's their favorite restaurant? So if I'm getting you a gift, knowing your favorite restaurant, I know exactly who I need to call, right? I just call, get you a gift certificate, and thank you so much, and with the note, it's in the mail, right?
We're all about leveraging time and leveraging brain space.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you do it right away. So that's the first correspondence that goes out. Nice to meet you. Fill this out. Is it an electronic document where they can fill it out on their phone? Google form. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Love it. Okay.
It's so easy. It's so easy. So then the Google form gets sent over to Rebecca, who's we call her my marketing manager, but again, she's in everything. She's my person. And she implements them into our database. We use Referral Maker. That's what I was using before I came over here, and I'm happy with it. It does the job for me.
What is it called?
The Referral Maker.
And how do they do?
It's kind of like a CRM. Well, it is a CRM. It's your client database. Okay. So if you, similar to, I'm trying to think what other things are similar, like Constant Contact. I think KV Core's got a database in there where you can plug in your transactions with your clients. And so then they go into what we call a potential. Okay. And then they also go into we send out a weekly email. So they also go into our weekly email list so that they get added automatically. And that is through Kartra. Only because I have products that I sell. I created a home builders checklist for people who are building custom homes because it is a crazy time. So to be able to, so to be able to, so how often, do you have, and this is a totally different thing, but the building process is extremely overwhelming and needing to make sure that you're staying on budget. Okay, I want to add this, like, can I add this? So can I take from budget here? It just, it creates the ability to figure out exactly where you are in the process and how much you're spending and what is costing what. So you can do your upgrades where you want and then maybe pinch, other places. So anyway, we have that for sale on Kartra. That's the only reason I use Kartra is because it has the shopping.
How do you spell that app?
Kartra. It's Karta.
Never heard of them. So they do your automated emails that go out?
Yep.
And what's different about them that KV Core can do?
Probably nothing. It's just like I said, I like
before and
I like the shopping cart for it. I mean, so like we're already paying for it anyway. And I like that you can customize them a little bit. So that's what we've done. I know that Kartra has more to offer as we expand in what we're offering for sale. But that's pretty much the only reason.
Who creating the weekly emails?
Me, I write them. And then Rebecca puts them in our format. Mm-hmm.
So every single one. So is there, what day of the week do you write your weekly emails on?
Fridays.
Fridays at a certain time, you're writing your weekly email.
Mostly in the morning. I block out the morning on Fridays. I call it sacred time. And I like to batch my tasks like everybody, save the brain space. So I'm writing weekly emails. Those emails have now turned into blog posts, which I'm actually really happy about because we tested the weekly email and people loved it because it was really bite-sized. They're not big, right? Like it's not like a whole lot of stuff, but we go through themes for the month and we plan out. A lot of it is real estate information locally. Some of it is nationally. And then like right now for the month of February, we're talking about investing. So I just did a interview actually with Molly No. So she's going to be on the next weekly email where they can listen in on the audio file.
Love it. That's amazing. I love how organized you are. That's how things work. Like if you want to get stuff done, you have to do it at a certain time every single week, week in and week out, rain or shine, right? Because if not, you're going to get it done and then you're going to push it out to next week. And next thing you know, I'm like, oh my gosh, a month went by. I didn't do any of it. You can do it. So whatever you decide to do, you have to do it always on the time. So then the emails go out, your initial email goes out, right? Then you have the attached file. Do you tell them you have about 2 days to get it back to us, or like to give them a time frame, or do you just?
They're usually pretty quick. Honestly, no, they're usually pretty quick because we have set a time to meet. So more than likely we've already like, hey, does this work for you? Does that work for you? Very rarely will I get off the phone without a time in a place, or if we're doing Zoom, hey, I'll send you a Zoom link. So they'll get it back. I don't think I have had to ask people in the meeting to get it back. Or if I do, it's really quick, like, hey, fill that out. Like, and they're like, oh, shoot. Yeah, totally. Got it. So it doesn't, people are pretty open to, getting it done.
And then what happens?
So then, like, let's just take a buyer, for instance. Again, like I said, I like a lot of personal touch. So I deliver them what's called a buyer survival kit. And I just started this and it's so fun. And it's just a bag of candy. And it is, and I will say, sometimes it's me delivering it. Sometimes it's my boyfriend's teenager. And that works really well. That is like the best. But so they'll get a buyer survival kit and it's just a little bag of candy with cute little sayings. Like, there's a Twix in there because we're pulling out all the stops to find you the best home. There's, what else do we have in there? There's an almond joy because you're going to jump for joy when your contract gets accepted. There's York peppermint patty so that they can stay cool as a cucumber during all the ebbs and flows. Like just cute things, like get them excited, right? Because it's exciting. It's an exciting time, and it's tough out there.
If your clients are out of state, do you mail it to them?
I should. I haven't. No, I should.
Because now we are experiencing where many of the buyers don't even come in, right? Like I never meet them face to face. At first, we are actually like, I've been in it now for 11 years, right? You two a long time. So I remember what it was like. I used to tell our agents, don't you ever do a sight unseen offer, ever. Out of your mind, right?
And times have changed.
2020, 2021, you're like, you want in? You can always walk away at the time of the home inspection, right? You have to make your offer. You're going to be offer number 47 if you have to wait until you come into town, right? So times definitely change, but because of that, now we have a lot of buyers that we don't actually get to meet sometimes. So then would you mail it to them, or it sounds like you?
Yeah. A lot of the times if I have buyers that are out of state, or even just like referral partners that are out of state, I will send a coffee card every once in a while, but it's all reminders, right? So it's like, hey, like your CRM should remind you to talk to these people if you haven't talked to them in a while. So that's what I like about Referral Maker is like, you can log those things and they'll pop up, every so often, like, hey, you haven't talked to so-and-so, you should give them a call. Like, oh, heck yeah. Like, so I'll send a coffee card, or I'll just give them a call and say, hey, how are things going? By the way, if you know of anybody looking to buy or sell, holler. So it's, but yeah, so then we do for buyers, we do a buyer survival kit, and then we go out, we look at property, we get them under contract. Then they move over to our under contract process. And that's just detailed based on like where they are at in their transaction. The big part of that we have really honed in on is the testimonial. So we've been really pretty relentless about getting testimonials and making sure that we are upping our Zillow presence and now our Google presence too. So it's
that was the next question. So the two places you get, Zillow and Google, those are the only two places you get. My recommendation, add your own Facebook business page.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were grabbing Real Satisfied, and Real Satisfied went to link to Facebook. But we don't grab Real Satisfied anymore. So I will have them linked to the business Facebook page.
Yeah. So I ask for 3 referrals after every closing, and they are Facebook.
Okay.
Business, Google My Business, and then Zillow. Even though I've never had a Zillow account, right? I never bought leads from them.
Never once have I bought
whatever that's called, right?
But I will use their platform. It's so funny when we, in our buyer consult initially, that's one thing that I say. So I'll set them up on our database or our MLS auto search.
Yeah.
But it's just email, right? So I'm like, Zillow pays a lot more for tech than I do. So let's utilize that. They'll ping your phone, well, I'll ping your email, and then we're covering all bases.
I know. And they show you for sale by owners, which I can't show you. So
oh my gosh. Oh, this is hilarious. So we had one. If this doesn't scream the importance of the real estate agent and how we need to educate the public on how important we are. I had a client who called. We were in Florida a couple of weeks ago, and I had a client who called, and he was like, hey, I'm planning on using you. I haven't talked to you about it yet, but I need to sell. I was going to sell my house in the spring, but I saw this house pop up on Zillow and I'm really interested, but it's a for sale by owner. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And so I look it up, and I had a hard time finding it, for one. Like, I had to go directly to Zillow and plug in the address, and he's got 4 photos. You can hardly find out who, like, where to even call, and nicest guy in the world, the nicest human, just puts it up there, and there's no information. And so I finally find his phone number, and I call him, and I'm like, hey, I was like, I've got a client who's interested in looking at your property. You know, are you paying a buyer's agent fee? And he was like, yeah. He's like, absolutely. Let's set up an appointment. Okay, great. So it had been on Zillow for like 3 days. This is probably one of the most coveted, like patio home style living areas. It's I don't want to call it like an older community, because it's really not, but it's coveted. It's a place that people want to get into. And so I'm like, yeah, okay, like, you're still like, do you have offers on the table, or like, what's the deal? Like, cause you never know what for sale.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, no, come, like, have him come on through. I was like, I'm out of town. I might have an agent go with him. And he's like, great, just let me know, we'll get it set up. So he ended up going by himself, and they talked, and he was like, yeah, he's like, I want to write this up. We wrote it up, didn't have to go over ask, and got it under contract like the next day.
But I'm like, the realtor, right? They saved the realtor fees and lost $40,000 under market value, right?
We list his house, and the next week we had it ready, and I did 2 days of open houses, had multiple offers, 2 cash offers, and all of them over ask. And it's a higher price point and not a great location. I mean, not that it's a great location. It's just that was a very coveted location. And it was just like, what could you have gotten? Like, what you missed, but I'm happy you missed, because my client's pumped. Like, it's great, but it just was a really interesting.
Yeah. One of my favorite things, right? When we are talking with for sale by owners, I also feel like they are doing me a favor, right? I'm like, oh, you want to do for sale? Go do that and call me when you don't know what the heck you're doing, right?
Yes.
One of my favorites, like, well, they know everything, right? They have it all figured out, right? And I'm like, okay, how are you going to calculate the PITI? And then they're like, what's that? Right? Oh, okay. But you're going to negotiate for yourself, but you don't know what PITI is, right? That's post-closing occupancy, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. How are you going to calculate it? Do you even know what that is? How are you going to represent yourself? God forbid you get an agent like me on the buy side. I'm going to negotiate you out of your freaking underpants, right? And you can't even protect yourself. Here are you trying to protect 3% on losing 10.
Yes. Literally. I don't even want to know.
You don't know what you're doing, right? But they don't even know what they're missing, because they don't really understand how this works, right? Like, what do they know?
It's so.
I love when they call us after.
I know.
Right? Like,
well, and he's so, honestly, he's so lovely. Like, he's awesome. Like, I know he'll refer people to me because we've just had such a great time. So I mean, it's a win-win, right? Like, it's fine. But I'm just like, man, I was like, you missed it. Like, you're getting what you need, but like, okay.
So hopefully they learn from it, right?
Yeah, no kidding.
So you do a lot of systems though, and a lot of systems are not necessarily standard. Like Asana, I'm familiar with it because I researched it. We ended up using
so the system that we tried to build out was all on ClickUp. We tried to use ClickUp to do everything.
Got it.
And ClickUp's very similar to Asana. It's great. Nothing against ClickUp. It's just not, the system broke. It didn't do what we wanted it to do. So when, at least, and I'm sure you're the same way, when I think about systems, I want to think about, okay, when my business doubles, can it withstand? Is it going to withhold, this?
And not just does it work for us now, but does it work?
Yeah.
Is it going to work for us where we are going, right? Because I don't want to start a system and then a year from now we have to do another one because it can't sustain us anymore.
Exactly. It's
but
the
then
same
for
thing.
that, you also need to know where you're going, where most people are just going somewhere.
So that's the thing too. Like when you're creating and you're planning, what you want your business to look like, it can look like anything. And I know that sounds like so cliche, but like we all serve people differently. So figure out where you like to serve people and then figure out what system pairs with that type of service. And that's really that's where you start. So with the creating, we create our processes and then we plan it out. So we figure out what are the most important tasks that we have. Like, okay, great. I've got, X amount of things to do today. We have, I want to do some growth things today. What do we've got going on? So we use Eisenhower's quadrant. Are you familiar?
Nope. I'm writing this down.
I love it so much. I love it. So Eisenhower is deemed to be one of the most productive men in history, right? Or people, I should just say people, because let's be real. But he is deemed to be one of the most productive people ever. And he believed that there are two different types of tasks. So you have urgent tasks and you have important tasks. So urgents are your like deadline, right? Like your paperwork. This is your inspection notices. Yeah, your contracts, your taxes.
I hate doing it, so I push it out to the last minute.
Yeah. Oh gosh, these are your fires. So they talk about survival mode, to-do lists being in survival. They're actually survival lists rather than success lists. So you want your important tasks are your success list. This is your growth. This is what's going to continue to project you into the future to gain you more business that way. Right. So he created this quadrant. It's like this, and he categorizes urgent, important tasks. He categorizes non-urgent, important tasks, urgent, non-important, and non-urgent, non-important. So urgent, important being the tasks that you are, those are your fires. Those are your deadlines. Those are your things. You don't want to live here. You're going to have these. This is just your space. I mean, it's real estate. You're going to have that. But you need to fight to create space for the non-urgent, important tasks, because that's your emails. That's your social media posts. That's your client calls. That's your client gifts. That's your marketing calendar. That's everything that is going to grow your business, not just sustain it for that day. Right. So then on the non-important, urgent items, I'm trying to think in my brain. I can see it down here. So this is the stuff that you delegate. This is the stuff that is important, but it necessarily doesn't have to be done by you. So Rebecca takes all of my contacts that come in. Like if we run Facebook, we run a couple Facebook ads, like they're more like billboards anyway, but she'll take those contacts and implement them into our email newsletter. If we have new buyers, new sellers coming in, she'll implement their contact information. I don't need to do that. She does that. So figure out what tasks aren't important to you, or aren't, they're important, but they don't need to be done by you. They can be done by somebody else, and delegate those out. And then the non-important, non-urgent, just freaking get rid of. You don't need them. But that's also where you need to get really clear on how you want to run your business, right? So if you're saying yes to everything under the sun, it could be a good thing. It could be really cool, but okay, is it actually getting you in the direction that you want to move? If it's not, then it needs to go away. Yeah.
I usually say, can you tell, or do you know what the difference between, or what's the enemy of good, right? The enemy of good is great. You could have it great. It might be a good idea, but is it a great idea?
Yes.
Right? Is it going to make you, or shit ton of money, excuse my French, or remove the calendar, or all of those things, or is it just another shiny object that's going to make you the same amount of money if you continue doing what you're already doing, right?
Exactly.
So the good and great is, you have to stop for a minute and take that 10,000 foot view of should I be doing this? Is it going to make me more money, or is it going to just sustain what we are doing, or maybe make me even less money? Is it a shiny object? Yeah. I'm going to be watching YouTube videos on the Eisenhower quadrant.
I love it. It's so helpful. Oh gosh, it's so good. So then when you have the tasks that you need to spend time on, then you plan them, or that you execute them. So you're calendaring. I use my iCalendar like a crazy person. That is.
So I have that too, but I don't put my tasks in there, right? I have my appointments. This is what my calendar looks like. Yep. So I have my appointments in there, but this is when I need to meet face-to-face with someone, right? It might be a podcast, it might be a meeting, or it might be a Zoom call, or it might be, anything that I'm doing where I'm actually meeting someone. I have an appointment with someone. They make my calendar. My tasks though, it's always in my head. I just know what I need to get done today. So
bless you.
But it gets complicated when you have a team of 30 and they,
oh my God,
when they don't know what they need to do today, right? Because their brain doesn't work like my brain.
Okay, I'm gonna recommend one thing for you, and it will be a color-coded calendar.
So everybody has their own calendar.
Yes.
Their calendar doesn't feed into mine. And they do it, right, like however they need to remind themselves of what needs to get done. That's totally up to them. I just can't possibly see everybody's calendar in mine because I can barely get through mine.
Oh God, no, you'd go nuts. I
mean, it's like there are those little things that it doesn't necessarily need to be in my calendar, but it would be so nice if I got it done today, right? Yes. Like I'm like, oh shoot, I still have that old business card. I should redesign it, right? It's not important. I have business cards. If I need it, I have business cards, right? But it's not going necessarily along with the style that we are projecting for the year, right? And then so those kind of things. So usually what I do,
important, not urgent.
Yeah, usually what I do, I'll just write down those notes on my mind of like, oh shoot, I need to get back to Beck. That's my secret, right? Like, oh, he called me.
And one of the things that I've implemented for those type of tasks, because those are your urgent, not important tasks, we want to batch them. So if we're using the same brain, like today, I had an interview, I taught a systems class for a local brokerage, and I have this interview. So I'm batching tasks today, right? And I will create like a 2-hour block, because you can get more done in less time. If you give yourself that amount of time, that's how long it's going to take you.
Yeah.
So I get a 2-hour block. I create what's called a game day list. And these are like needle moving tasks, right? So these are things that are going to propel my business forward. These aren't right inspection notice. These aren't, that's not what it is. So in that 2-hour block, that's where I'm getting that growth time.
Yeah.
So those are those.
I write it down with little lines in front of it. I don't know what they called, right? So I just write down, oh, I need to do this, I need to do that, and oh, I need to call so and so, and oh, I need to do this, I need to get back to so and so, and I need to get back to the CPA, and I need to upload that document, right?
Yes.
Whatever those like small things are, but they're all things that are taking my business to the next level. They're not the day-to-day data entry stuff needs to get done task, right? It's like things of like, oh shoot, I need to do that today because that is going to make my business better. Or it's going to make me a connection or right. And then I just do a check mark when I got it done. So I don't necessarily have to get it done in that time frame while I'm writing it. Usually I'll just sit down with my morning coffee. I always have my notebook anywhere I go. It's like this book and me are attached by the hip.
Oh yes.
Done. Yeah. I'm attached by the hip to this little book. I used to have a big one like that, a bigger size, but then I like a smaller purse. And because this goes everywhere I go, it has to fit into my purse. So I opted in for a notebook. But then I write it down, and I can't tell you from the moment I started doing this, no matter how small the task is, but checking it off and seeing at the end of the day, because sometimes you go to the whole day, you're like, I was so busy all day, I didn't get anything done. But then you look down at your notebook of like, hold on a minute, I got that done, I got that done, I got that done, I got that done. And then you feel so much more like you actually achieved something today.
So you will love this. This is a product called the Daily Deposit.
Okay.
And I do this every morning. So my mornings are really regimented. I work out at 5, I read, I journal, and I do my daily deposit from 6 to 7 or 6:15, because it takes me 15 minutes to drive home from the gym. So 6:15 to 7:15, I'm reading, I'm journaling, and I'm learning, right? I'm taking notes on what I'm learning. But this is, so this is my game day list, right?
Yeah.
And then you have to, at the end of the day, you have to win or lose. Like, I'm no loser. I'm not gonna take the L. Like, no way, I'm getting that stuff done.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I actually made a quote because somebody asked me, why do you always have to win? Right? Because I've just, and I was thinking, I'm like, why do I care so much about winning? And I came to the conclusion, I'm like, I don't care about winning. I just don't lose. Like, I don't care if I win. I just don't lose. Right? Like, it's always been my attitude. Like, I'm no freaking.
My boyfriend, he always makes fun of me because I call getting a contract winning. So like, if there's multiple offer, I'm like, I just want to win. I want to win today. I want to win. So yesterday we submitted 2 contracts, and I wanted 2 for 2 so bad, but we went 1 for 2, which is fine. But it was, I was sitting there at the table, and I was like, I want to win. And so one of them came in, and I was like, I won. And he's like, your client won. I'm like, no, you're right. Like, you're so right. But I won.
We're going to check that out today, right? That's awesome. But it will give you that achievement, right? And writing your thoughts down too. Like, even if I'm on a Zoom call, right? If I'm learning something new from you, I'm going to write it down.
Oh.
I'm going to put an exclamation mark next to it, because that's how I know that one day that's going to be a quote. Yes. Right. So the whole Eisenhower thing, right? Like, I'm going to learn more about it, and that's going to be a quote. One day I'm going to take that quadrant and teach the world about it, because I think it's important. But if you look at like anything that I do, like here's an example, like here's those check marks that I was telling you about. And is there an exclamation mark on any of these pages?
Yeah.
No, but exclamation mark, like right there, right? So in the previous page, there's 2 exclamation marks. That means that when I heard these, I considered that one day would be a good quote, because I love quotes. Quotes changed my life. Quotes is how my brain works and things stick. Like, that's how I learn a lesson, right? So this one said the law of diminishing value is, if they come to you for money, they will leave you for money.
Amen to that.
So that came in at agent attraction. That came in at agent attraction, right? Like, if they leave their brokerage to make more money, then they're going to leave your brokerage to make more money.
Yeah. So, and that's a good segue. Like the icon award, I was really excited about the icon award, but that's not why I came. Like, it's a facet, right? Yeah. Like I'm like, hey, I was like, this is a part of what I want. Like, this is what I'm looking for. So it's so true. Like, it's not because of the money. It's, it's because
you have to have multiple reasons. I mean, I had 3, right? I was like, hold on a minute. I'm a top producer, and I'm not stupid. I like to say I pay for this hair color.
Yeah. Oh God. Oh my God, girl, same.
My natural hair color is far off of blonde, right?
I tried being a brunette. It was not good. It just wasn't good look.
I always say God doesn't make mistakes, but I think he did when he created me as a brunette, because no offense to all the brunettes, but my life is way more boring as a brunette than it is. I get away with murder. Having black and an accent, it does magic. Just kidding.
Oh my God. I used to say, so when I was in college and I wanted to be a lawyer, people would ask me, they're like, where did you get that? I think Elle Woods is a boss. And my mom is like, oh my God, no, like, stop it. And I was like, no. I was like, but to be honest, Reese Witherspoon and Elle Woods are total bosses. So I'm like, I'm stand behind that. Okay, leave me alone. She was like, you cannot tell people that you were inspired to go to law school by Legally Blonde.
I'm just like, America, for Eddie Murphy, pretty much for 48 hours, everybody thinks it's Coming to America, right? That movie, it's not that movie, same actor, different movie, right? But movies can be life-changing. Yeah. Actors can be life-changing, right? Like, the truth is, one of the reasons I'm in this country is Eddie Murphy. I just thought he was hilarious.
Oh my gosh.
He seems so happy. And I was like, I don't know where that man is.
Like, if it hits and it hits right, like that, it doesn't matter. Like,
I was 8 years old. It was communism. They just shot Ceausescu, and I watched him getting shot in the head. My parents thought it was a great idea. And our leader being shot in the head, right? Watching by an 8-year-old. And then after that, we got access to the Western world, and I got to see, my dad came home with a color TV and a DVR player, and I got to watch a VCR back in the days, right? Mm-hmm. And I got to watch Eddie Murphy's 48 Hours, and I just thought he was the funniest thing on earth. And never knowing that America even existed, I didn't know where he was, but just my recollection, because I never seen the Western world, right, to me was like, I want to go where that man is at, because he seems so happy there. Right. And I lived in communism, and I didn't know where he was. Right. And I didn't even know at the time that I was America, but that's my first recollection of, like, I'm coming to America. Fast forward, when I was 21 is when I actually came. But a movie can change your life, right?
Absolutely, it can. Absolutely. It didn't bring me to law school, but it sure brought me to somewhere that I'm really happy it brought me. So
exactly.
It's all fine.
Law school to realize you don't want to be a lawyer, and
exactly.
Process of elimination, what you don't want to do when you grow up. So we talk systems, we talk about definitely taking notes. We talked about scheduling your time, and most importantly, scheduling that you time, right, in the morning. So most people that I talk to, they're all morning people. I'm that oddball out. My brain works late at night, so I put my kids to bed. I think it's because I go so much during the day, then I can just like ploop, fall over and go to bed at 9 o'clock. Like, I can't do that, right? So for me, it's like I have to like slow down a little bit. That's when I would read a book. That's when I watch a show. That's when I play a lot of like brain games on my phone. That's how I slow my brain down at night, and then I fall asleep and go to bed. But I usually don't fall asleep until 1, like somewhere between midnight and 2 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, wow,
So because of that, I wake up around 8 o'clock, because I need that 7-8 hours.
Totally. Yeah.
But I'm not a morning person. So I don't have that morning routine. I have like a midnight routine where
That's
most of the
okay.
world is sleeping,
Yeah.
where you wake up while most of the world is sleeping, right?
Yeah.
So I just don't have that morning. But I think a routine and what works for you, it's very, very important. It seems to me that morning works for most people. To me personally, it doesn't. I'm a night owl, right? But it feels like there has to be some sort of a routine that you do. So you give that brain food, right? Not just food for your body, but food for your brain, so that you can actually do those activities all day long, right? And then also, I feel like you need that something that's so exciting to you, right? And it doesn't feel like work.
Yes.
So what is that thing that you love in real estate so much, right? Because it pays the bills and you do a great job at it. So which part of your actual job is that like, I look so forward to it?
This is new to me. So it's fun, but well, I mean, obviously talking with people, like that's really fun. I enjoy talking with people, like that's fun. But I actually recently have gotten into teaching agents, and that has been so freaking fun. And I didn't realize how much fun that was until I actually just did it the first time.
Yeah.
And now I've done it. I think I've had like five or six speaking engagements where we're talking about systems at different places. And then I have one for our state EXP group tomorrow. So yeah.
Amazing. So now you're taking the knowledge that you enjoy, right? You enjoy building systems. You realize you have to have systems in places. And now you're taking that knowledge that comes so easy to you to teach others. I love nothing more either than seeing the light bulb go off in someone's eyes, right? You're like, they get it. They're going to do this. They're going to start seeing the results. They're going to tag me, right? It's so amazing when you're like, oh my gosh, you did it. I'm so proud of you. Yeah. But that takes us to the next step, right? So we get to do agent attraction here. So you iconed with those systems. I'm going to ask you more question on iconing. But that takes you to the agent attraction portion of that. So is that something that you want, especially if you love teaching agents? I think I know the answer to your question, but let me ask you, is that something that you want to do? Do you want to build an organization or downline or team that we call it?
I do. I want to do it different. And I don't know if it's different, but I want to do, there's a way that feels really exciting and really good to me. And that is through teaching and seeing that light bulb, and then have them be like, oh wait, like we can do this all the time. Heck yes, we can do this all the time. Like, come on over.
We're business partners. We can just put our brains together, right? As the honey badgers say it. And I never heard that saying before. And I love the way they explain it. It's like one big fire. We all bring our log, right? Yeah. Like, I know something you don't know. You know something I don't know. Together we throw it on the fire. And now we have this one big fire by sharing our knowledge with one another.
It's so true. It is just, I believe so we've really dug deep into, and when I say we, I'm talking about Rebecca and myself, my support staff, and we've really dug into what our one mission is. And so we can filter content through that way. And it makes it really easy to create. It makes it really easy to write emails. It makes it really easy to write blog posts. And our one mission is real estate agents are educated advisors. And so we have to educate ourselves as well as educating everybody else. Yeah. So we pour in with the personal growth. You talk about morning routines. I'm reading constantly. Like I've got, oh my gosh. I was asked in the session that I taught today, I was asked what my favorite book was. And I was like, can I give you 5? Like, can I literally give you 5 books?
Yeah, because they all change your life in some different aspect. Yeah.
Yes. And so you pour into yourself, but you also learn about your craft. Like product knowledge is a huge deal. Like we have access to information that the public doesn't have access to, and it's our duty.
But I feel like real estate is one of the industries that changes the fastest.
Oh my gosh.
So if are you kidding? You're gonna be a dinosaur.
Oh my God. Like you have to adapt. So instead of like one of my biggest pet peeves is when older agents rag on newer agents and newer agents rag on older agents in the age range. Like, oh, these millennials and these tech people and, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no. Like, let's learn together, because I am a product of old real estate, right? Like that's how I learned. There are principles there that are really important. They're very important principles. They're very, and they stand the test of time. But when we can marry that with a new age of technology and building relationships that way, like that's where you're going to find great success, and you're going to be really happy doing what you're doing, not having to go one way or the other or pulling each other apart that way. So anyway, I'm a millennial and I'm proud.
I used to say, I'm like, oh, those millennials. And somebody said, you're a millennial. I was like, what?
Oh yeah.
Maybe? because I'm like 40, right? I was born in 81. Like, what do you mean I'm a millennial? But I guess I'm at the very, very first one, or last one, I should say, in this case, right? Depending which end you start counting from. So what would that be, that one thing, if there is one thing that took you to iconing, what would that be?
Getting
your systems in places?
Getting systems, but getting focused. Like, you can have all the systems in the world where, I mean, people are always coming at us with, oh, you need this. And then so-and-so's Bobby Sue down the road is doing this. And there's just so much noise as far as what you could be doing versus getting real clear about what you should be doing. And what you should be doing is moving you in the line of how you want to run your business. So nobody's going to be able to tell you that, right? Like, nobody's going to be able to give you, I can give you my process list and be like, here, go do these things. It's not going to hit with you because you didn't create it, right? Like, you might get something from it. You might like take, a piece of it and be like, yeah, I can add that to my own, but it's not going to hit with you, and it's not yours. So when you create your own, and when you decide for yourself how you want to run your business, then you can back into it and decide what systems, are going to get you there. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time. What is the best way for someone to get a hold of you?
You can find me on Instagram at my realtor Kelley. It's Kelley, a little bit different. And then honestly, that's probably the best way. On Facebook, it's also my realtor Kelley as well for our business page.
That's how we communicate. I'm like, DM me on Instagram.
Yeah, all about that gram life.
Well, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge. Congratulations, Icon.
Thank you.
In your first year with us, one of the many icons that you're going to receive. And then maybe do you want to share with us very quick of like, what's your plan for 2022?
To icon again. And I actually want to increase, what does it end up being? Increasing the volume by 25% and doing it in the same amount of transactions. So upping that price point, which we are well on our way. So
I love it. What is the average price range in your area?
Oh my gosh. So right now, Billings Proper, and this is like big deal. Billings Proper has hit over $400,000 for a single family home average price the last 3 months in a row.
That's awesome.
Yep.
What was it like 3 years ago? What was it 3 years ago?
Oh, 275.
Yeah, same.
That
75 has been our average for like ever, and then suddenly like 420. Like, whoa.
So you guys, we're 413 right now. Well, as of January, we were 413.
Yeah, so probably times
Well,
change.
Similar market.
Change. Talking about times change. Like numbers change. Well, thank you, Kelley, so much for your time. Thank you for sharing your knowledge. I took down some amazing systems, and I'm definitely going to go look into it. I will share the YouTube link with you as soon as it's uploaded, and then feel free to send your message out for the world.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Congratulations, rockstar icon agent.
Thank you.
Bye.
Happy to be here.